morning, church. A very pleasant Sabbath to you. I don't know why they don't make a lectern for short people. It's a matter we may have to look into. It's good to be given the opportunity again by God to speak to you today. When I was coming through the door this morning, Elder Glendine approached me and said, Leslie, I was talking to my husband this morning, and I told him, I hope Leslie doesn't discuss in his sermon controversial issues today. And Elder Glendine, I want to give you the assurance that there will be no controversy in the message today. That is in my next sermon, not this one. Then I'm going to blow the lid off. But today, I am going to be more circumspect. I want to thank the praise team for their song today. And those of you who are viewing online, I'd like to welcome you. The Wednesdayites who are viewing the service online, I urge you to return to church. I know you have been enjoying it, you onliners, but it is better to rub shoulders in church with each other. So I'm inviting you to leave your beds and your rocking chairs and join us here at church. When I began preparing this sermon, I asked my wife, I said, honey, do you know who Shamgar is? And she replied, Sham who? I repeated, Shamgar. It was with pure delight to see the look of bewilderment on her face. She had no idea who I was talking about. It was as if I was speaking Guyanese Creolese or Jamaican patois. No idea what I was talking about. I said, Dawn, you mean to tell me that you don't know who is Shamgar and you read your Bible every day? Shamgar was not someone she had heard of or knew anything about. I know most of you have read and probably told the story of Shamgar over and over again at your dinner tables. The most stories of popular heroes of the Bible are recorded in many, many chapters. For example, the story of Moses fills 136 chapters in the Bible. The story of Joseph, we are studying Joseph now, occupies 21 chapters. And the life of Jesus, the greatest teacher, leader, and prophet, is recorded in 81 chapters of the New Testament. Samuel, the author of the book of Judges, as I believe, dedicated 2 verses, 42 words to tell the story of Shamgar. No wonder he is so popular. The obvious question is, how important could Shamgar be if all the mention he gets in the Bible is just 42 words? How can one learn from a guy whose entire biography consists of 2 verses? But through these 2 little verses, God tells us that there is literally no limit to what we can achieve if we learn the lessons of Shamgar's life, we find his story in the book of Judges, Judges chapter 3 and verse 31. And it states, "And after him was Shamgar, the son of Anath, which slew of the Philistines 600 men with an ox goad, and he delivered Israel." And in Judges chapter 5 and verse 6, "In the days of Shamgar, the son of Anath, in the days of Jehiel, the highways were unoccupied, and travelers walked through byways." If you are one of the few who knows nothing of Shamgar, it's probably because you do not know his daddy. Shamgar was identified by his father, and after him was Shamgar, the son of Anath. You see, in Guyana, I am often and sometimes identified as the brother of Slappy, my youngest brother, because he is the popular one, or should I say, the infamous one. So if you know Slappy, you probably may know me. So if you know Anath, you ought to know Shamgar. But really, what does these two verses tell us? First, because these verses were found in the book of Judges, we know that Shamgar lived more than 3,000 years ago in the land of Canaan. The land of Canaan was divided among several walled cities, states that continually were at war with each other. Shamgar's people, the Hebrews, had migrated into Canaan after being in bondage for several generations in the land of Egypt. By the time Shamgar was born, the great Hebrew leaders like Moses and Joshua and Caleb were long dead. The Hebrews had no king and no leadership. In those days, there was no king in Israel. Every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Secondly, we know that Shamgar lived in an evil and dangerous times. In the days of Shamgar, we are told, the highways were unoccupied and travelers walked by the byways. You see, after the death of Israel's great military leader, Joshua, Israel was constantly overrun by several foreign invaders. The people of Israel avoided the main highways and took to narrow paths for fear of bandits and terrorists. I mean, the Boko Harams of Shamgar days. They were lawless times, and the Israelites were leaderless and defenseless. Thirdly, we know that Shamgar was a farmer. We know that because he struck down 600 Philistines with an ox goad. An ox goad is a wooden tool, approximately 8 feet long and fitted with a spike, an iron spike or a point at one end. And it was used to spur the oxen on as it was plowing the land or pulling a cart. The ox goad tells us that Shamgar was a man who spent much of his life in a field, pushing a plow, planting or tending crops. Fourthly, we know that Shamgar was a great military leader. He was savvy, he was smart, and he was effective. All by himself, he killed 600 Philistines. Now, something about the Philistines, they were a barbarous and violent race of people who occupied the southern coast of Philistia. The area was organized in a loose alliance of 5 Philistine cities: Ashkelon, Ashdod, Gath, Gaza, and Ekron. The antagonism between Israel and the Philistine began around the time of Shamgar and continued up until and beyond the time of David. Before Shamgar defeated the Philistines and saved Israel, no one would have picked him as a man destined for greatness. He was an ox rancher, a man with dirt under his fingernails and ox manure on the sole of his sandals. No one would have looked at him and said, there's the man who is going to save the nation of Israel. Yet, this untrained farmer single-handedly wiped out 600 Philistine soldiers and saved his nation. The question today is, how did he do it? How did Shamgar achieve such great things? That's a very important question. For persons to make a difference in this world through the power of God, he or she must follow 3 important steps. And these steps I call Shamgarism. You would not find the word in the dictionary. For I tell you what, no lexicographer is going to tell me how to name my sermon. Shamgarism is the 3 steps you need if you are going to be successful in this life. Number 1, start where you are. Number 2, use what you have. Number 3, do what you can. The 2 verses in Judges on Shamgar's life teach these 3 lessons that will transform your lives. These 3 principles are essential in making an indelible mark on the pages of history. Let's take a closer look at what it means to start where you are. Shamgar started where he was, out on his farm, close to the Philistine borders. He did not attend Oxford or Cambridge universities. He did not have, in fact, any university education. He was not trained in battlefield tactics at Sandhurst. The man was a simple farmer, but he began his exploits against the Philistines right there on his farm. Wherever here is, that's where you have got to start. If you're in London, there is no point in saying, I want to start in New York. If you have a dream or a calling from God to fulfill, don't wait until you get to a particular place to get going. You need to start right where you are. Start here and start now. People often think, someday, when I have more time, I'm going to make my dreams come true. Or someday, when I get off this farm and move to the big city, I'm going to accomplish great things. If that had been Shamgar's attitude, the Jews would have been speaking Philistine today. Shamgar never said, I will defend Israel from the Philistines someday. Maybe when I can find someone to go with me. Or when I have saved up enough to buy a bigger ox goad. Shamgar didn't wait for someday. He picked up his little ox goad and he got to work. He started where he was. He started at that very moment. What do you want to do someday? Don't wait. Start now. Don't put off living. Live now. Let me ask you, how do you want to be remembered when you're gone? How do you want your obituary to read? Well, here is something sobering for you. You are writing your obituary right now. Think about all the things you want people to read about your life when you're gone. Those things are the things you need to be doing right now while you are still alive. Most of us believe in the myth, when I get more time, I'm going to write that novel. Or when I get more time, I'm going to start my own internet business. Or when I get more time, I'm going to do the course I always wanted to do. Or when I get more time, I'm going to volunteer at my local food bank, the CHH. Why do you think you will ever get more time? Let me break the bad news to you. There will always be 60 seconds in 1 minute. There will always be 60 minutes in 1 hour. There will always be 24 hours in 1 day. There will always be 7 days in the week. There will always be 365 and a quarter days in a year. Why do you think you are more special than the rest of us? That you will get a 61-second minute or a 65-minute hour? Why should you get 25 hours in your day or have an 8-day week? If you are waiting for more time, you have a long time to wait. If you want to get anything accomplished before you die, then you must start here and start now. Don't find time, make time. And you must do it, right now. Don't wait to start your life. Accept the fact that your life has already started. And it is moving at a rate of 60 seconds per minute and 60 minutes per hour. You can't slow those minutes down. You can only use them wisely by spending them on things that you care most about. It is foolish to say, when I retire, I will start living. Or when I finish school, I will start living. Or when I lose 20 pounds, I will start living. Or when I get more time, I will start living. The fact is, you are living now. The great evangelist, Dr. Billy Graham once said, "You possess a non-renewable resource which is headed towards depletion. That resource is time. You can either invest your life or let it dribble through your fingers like sand in an hourglass. If there is ever a time to redeem every second, every minute, it is now. You may never have tomorrow. You can't count your days, but with the Lord our Savior, you can make your days count." The next 24 hours are a gift from God, and we must use them to do things of value and significance. You must commit to use God's gift of time wisely and productively. View time as an irreplaceable opportunity to achieve your dreams and fulfill your purpose. When you lay your head down to sleep, you should thank God for the gift of another day that you had invested well. Also, age is no impediment to starting. Don't think, "But I'm too old." to be what I might have been. Age has passed me by. Let me tell you something. Margaret Aggerty was 81 years, 101 days when she completed a marathon on each one of the 7 continents. Sir Winston Churchill was 65 years old when he became Britain's prime minister, but he led the nation to victory over Nazi Germany. Michelangelo was 66 years old when he completed painting the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. My bifocal lens, I have got to give thanks to Benjamin Franklin, who was 78 years old when he invented the bifocal lens. He was 81 when he signed the U.S. Constitution. Sleepy Joe Biden was 78 when he became the President of the United States of America. Age is just a number with a few aches and pains, but it is no impediment to achievement and fulfillment. The lives of those that I've mentioned above indicate you are never too old, or too young for that matter, to achieve your dreams. You are just the right age to seize the opportunity at this very moment. C.S. Lewis wrote, "The present is the point at which time touches eternity." And that is so true. When we truly seize this present moment, this present opportunity, and we offer it up to the service of God, we use our time to affect our eternal destiny, and we truly touch eternity. So don't hesitate. Don't procrastinate. Start where you are. Start right here. Start right now. The second secret to Shamgar's success is use what you have. All Shamgar had was an ox goad. That's it. Just a long wooden pole with a metal spike at the end. Shamgar's resources were limited, but he took the limited resources and offered them fully to God, and he used what he had. Why didn't Shamgar have a sword or a shield or a helmet? The reason was simple. He was not a professional soldier. The man was a farmer, not a man of war. But when the Philistines swarmed into his land, Shamgar had no choice but to confront them, and he did so with what he had at his disposal. He did not have an army like the 2 judges before him, Othniel and Ehud. He was alone. His land was being invaded, and he knew that something had to be done. This man did not look around for others to help him. He did not try to call on the government, for we know there was no king in Israel, and every man did that which was right in his own eyes. Shamgar said to himself, "In this time of crisis, I will step up. I'll take responsibility. I'm going to start where I am, and I'm going to use what I have." And that's just what he did. The Bible says, with an ox goad, he saved his nation. My question to you is, what do you have to work with? I would like to suggest 6 possessions, 6 resources that God has given you. And I would like you to pick up these resources today and get going. Number 1, your dreams. You have your dreams. You might say, dreams, is that all? What are dreams good for? What can I do with dreams? Let me say to you, every great accomplishment began as a dream. The automobile, the airplane, the space shuttle, all began in human imagination. Neil Armstrong stepped on the moon after the fulfillment of decades of dreams. Millions of Americans of all races have freedom and equality and opportunity that their parents and grandparents never dreamed of. Why? Because Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream, and he dared to make that dream come true. Dreams are incredibly powerful. They fill us with hope. They enable us to imagine a better tomorrow. They motivate us and energize us. They activate our courage so that we will dare to take risk in order to see these dreams come true. Dreams are a powerful, life-changing resource, and everyone has the power to dream. Dreaming is the first step to achieving. The bigger the dream, the greater the accomplishment. Don't let anyone kill your dreams, because you know what? You are born for greatness. Jesus said, "Greater things than these shall you do." You were born for greatness. So dream great dreams as God intended you to. I'm urging you today to make your dreams come true. Shamgar had a dream and an ox goad, and he saved his people. What is your big dream? Number 2, your enthusiasm. John Templeton defines enthusiasm this way: as the state of exuberance in which all things are possible. But my best definition of enthusiasm is found in Philippians chapter 4 and verse 13. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me, even overcoming the odds of 600 to 1. I don't think that Shamgar could have done what he did without some form of enthusiasm, without the belief that all things are possible through the power of God. Enthusiasm makes your mind sharper, your arms stronger, your feet swifter. Enthusiasm lifts your spirit and fires up your will to persevere. Enthusiasm motivates and empowers you. Enthusiasm often compensates for a lack of money, skill, and talent. A plan that might otherwise fall often succeeds on the strength of enthusiasm. It makes you indomitable, undefeatable. Even when your body is broken and racked with pain, enthusiasm can lift you above adversity and give you that winning edge. Number 3, talent. It has been said that amateurs built Noah's Ark. Professionals built the Titanic. Great achievements are often produced by people of relative modest talents, if they are willing to offer it all to God for service to others. Shamgar was a farmer, not a warrior, yet he offered whatever talents he had to God, and God used him to save a nation. You may not have the entrepreneurial ability of Jeff Bezos, or the writing ability of Paul, or the artistic ability of Picasso, or even the athletic ability of Usain Bolt, or even the preaching ability of Pastor Mario Philip. But so what? You have all the ability you need to carry out the mission God has given you, only if you put 100 of your ability to use for God. One preacher said, more people fail through lack of purpose than through lack of talent. What most of us need is not more talent, but more willingness to do more with the talent we have. Don't worry about being the best. Just make the best of the talents you have. You may think that you have very little talent, but I tell you, you have enough talent for any of the challenges you face. Your responsibility is to make the most of the talent you have. Start where you are and use what you have. Number 4, your education. Melville Fuller was the Chief Justice of the U.S. Supreme Court over a century ago. He was also very much involved in his church. Once, while he chaired a church conference, one of the conference speakers got up and spoke for a half of an hour on the evil influence of higher education. The man actually gave thanks to God that his mind had never been polluted by the wicked teachings of a university. Fuller listened to the man until he could stand it no more. He rose to his feet and interrupted the speaker. Am I to understand, sir, Fuller said, that you are giving thanks to God for the blessings of ignorance? The man looked a little confused and then replied, well, yes, I suppose I am. In that case, Fuller said, you have much to be thankful for. What kind of education do you have? An MBA, a PhD, a bachelor's degree in arts or science, GCSE A-level or O-level? Or does your education consist of an NVQ? Whatever your qualification, whatever your education, that is a resource you can use to achieve your life's goal and to fulfill your God-given mission in this life. Albert Einstein, who gave us the theory of relativity, once said, education is that which remains when you have forgotten everything you learned in school. And that's so true. Most of us think that education is something you pour into an empty skull during 3 or 4 more years at a university. In reality, the purpose of a university is not to complete the process of education, but to ignite a love affair with learning. The purpose of education is to replace an empty mind with an open mind. In other words, education does not mean you learn what you need to know, but you know how to learn, how to unlearn, and how to relearn. Even an education of how to use an ox goad can allow you to accomplish what you need to do. See, church, the world is changing quickly, too quickly, to allow your knowledge level to remain static. Society is changing. The economy, new technology are taking place, are happening so rapidly that what is true this morning may no longer be true this afternoon. If you do up, you will be left behind. Your education is a valuable resource that must evolve to allow you to optimally benefit from it. Number 5, your experience. No matter what resource you think you lack, you can't deny that we all have experiences. Our experience may not all be of triumphs and successes, but so what? Failure is often a far better teacher than success if you are willing to learn the lessons. One person once said, experience is the best teacher, but a hard grader. She gives the test first and the lesson later. Sometimes it seems that experience is a thing that we don't get until after we need it. But if we approach our lives with a positive and teachable attitude, we will learn the lessons of our experience in time for the next big test. We should always remember that experience is not what happened in our lives, but how we respond to what happens in our lives. There is only one thing more painful than learning from your experience, and that is not learning from your experience. A great deal depends on your attitude towards your mistakes. It is much more helpful and useful to think of our mistakes as experiences rather than failures. You see, the word failure suggests the end, but the word experience conveys the idea of a detour on the road to success. Shamgar had no military experience, but he had the experience of using the ox goad to hunt. He used that experience and he hunted down and killed 600 Philistine soldiers. He used what he had. We must do the same. And finally, number 6, another resource that most of us, number 6, wisdom. Wisdom is another resource that most of us have. I'm not talking about intelligence, knowledge, or education. There are many people who are not particularly well educated, but are amazingly wise. There are those who graduate from our universities, but who are utterly bankrupt in the wisdom department. As someone wisely say, never mistake knowledge for wisdom. One helps you living, the other helps you to make a life. You can determine which is which. When I was young, not so long ago, I was very impressed by people who were smart or talented or gifted in some ways. But as I grew older, I have become more impressed by people who are wise. People who have a deep understanding of life and who can explain how to live effectively for God and others. Wisdom comes from God. James 1:5 states, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not, and it shall be given him. The best part of the verse. We gain wisdom as we cooperate with God while he seeks to shape and mold our lives. Wisdom doesn't come to us all at once. It is built up gradually within as we learn and grow from the many experiences that life sends our way. We are wiser as we become more patient, more tolerant, more caring, more compassionate, more loving, more understanding, and insightful. We become wiser as we learn to trust God more completely through the tests and trials of our lives. Shamgar faced the greatest crisis of his life, the invasion of his homeland by the Philistines. He needed more than just his trusty ox goad at his side. He needed wisdom. He needed help from God in making a tough decision. Should he go out alone, braving impossible odds to fight the enemy? Should he pack up his family and his belongings and seek safety until the Philistines leave? I think I know what Shamgar did. He must have spent long hours on his knees before God, seeking divine wisdom for a painfully difficult decision. In the end, wisdom from God told Shamgar to stay and fight. He had no guarantees that he would win, but first he had to start where he was. He had to use what he had. He mustered up his courage, his skill, and his wisdom. And with his ox goad in his hand, he fought and he won. So, church, it is time to take stock of your God-given resources. Ask yourself, what do I have to complete my mission in life? What is my ox goad? Once you have your ox goad, I urge you to get going. God is ready and waiting to use you to achieve great things. Now, the only question is, are you ready for God? Finally, the third secret in Shamgarism is do what you can. The world is in a terrible mess, but what can one person do? The fact is, one person can change the world, or at least part of it. One person can share a word of encouragement or a smile with another person who desperately needs it. One person can give an hour or a day or a lifetime to a worthy cause. One person can adopt a child or mentor a troubled teen. One person can speak up and defend another person who is being treated unjustly. One person can show love and forgiveness instead of hatred and bitterness. Somewhere there is a vitally important task that no one is doing. If you don't do it, then it simply wouldn't get done. You may be expendable, you may be irreplaceable, but one thing I know for sure, you are essential to God's plan. If you don't carry out the life mission God has given you, your work will simply go undone. God has a mission for your life, and only you can carry it out. So again, what can one person do? Well, you can start where you are. You can use what you have, and you can do what you can. Do this, and you will be amazed at what God can do through you. What can one person do? The Bible tells us of a story of a teenage queen. When our people were threatened with destruction, when our life and the life of our uncle was in peril, when the law prohibited anyone from approaching the king without being summoned on the pain of death, that queen, motivated by the conviction that she may have come to the kingdom for such a time as this, she declared, I will go on to the king, which is not according to the law. And if I perish, I perish. That young woman defied the law, approached the king unsummoned, found favor in the king's sight, and delivered her people from certain death. What can one person do? Shamgar did what he could and saved a nation. If you don't think you are up to saving a nation, then start with a little thing smaller. Save a child. Save a tree. Save a whale. You can't do everything, but you can do something. So I urge you again, what can you do? By simply doing what you can, as Shamgar did, you may be able to save a soul or a life or a neighborhood or a cause or a nation. You never know. And the best news of all is that we don't have to worry about the results, because the results are God's business. Our part is simply to do what we can. Church, if you start where you are, use what you have and do what you can, you may find yourself accomplishing things you have never dreamed you can. You may not be able to do what you plan with your life. You may not be able to do what you have been trained for. But it will be what God had created you to do, what you are meant to do. If God created you to do it, I can guarantee you, you will be successful and you will love it. As I close, let me say this to you. Life is a marathon. You may not think that you can cross the finishing line, but I know you can. You can overcome any opposition. You can overcome any obstacle. You can overcome even 600 to 1 odds to reach your goal. All you have to do is to follow the example of Paul, who said, I have fought a good fight. I have finished the course. I have kept the faith. Henceforth, there is laid up for me a crown of righteousness with the Lord, the righteous judge, shall give me in that day. You can succeed if you are like Shamgar. That is, start where you are, use what you can, and do what you can. May God bless you.